Tonight, let us step very quietly into a house that hums with promises. Not loud promises, not dramatic ones, nothing so grand as a revolution or a war or a king crossing a border in the rain. Only the smaller promises of a neat kitchen, a brighter shirt, a smoother cheek, a loaf of bread that claims to build strong bodies, and a bottle of cleaner that suggests, in its own polite and lemon-scented way, that life might become simpler if only you bring it home. Outside, the neighborhood is still blue with the last hour before dawn. Driveways sleep beneath a faint silver sky. Curtains rest behind their narrow windows. Somewhere a porch light burns for no urgent reason at all, only because somebody forgot it, or because a woman in a magazine said that a well-lit home looks cared for from the street. A refrigerator hums behind one wall. A clock ticks behind another. Far off, as soft as breath, a radio murmurs in somebody's kitchen, warming itself for the day. This is suburbia in the 1950s, or rather, the dream of it. A place where every surface aspires to shine, every family photograph smiles a little too evenly, and every product on every shelf arrives wrapped in a promise of comfort. It is a world arranged not only by builders and planners and weather and habit, but by advertisers, by men who studied the anxieties of ordinary people and learned how to turn those worries into jingles, by women in print ads with perfect hair and ironed aprons who seem to wake each morning already grateful for floor wax, pudding mix, or a new style of refrigerator shelf. And yet, under all that polish, the house remains a house. Its floors are cool, its pipes knock faintly, its windows collect a little dust at the corners. Somebody left a folded newspaper on a chair. Somebody forgot a cup on the draining board. Somebody sometime yesterday tracked in dirt from the yard, and tomorrow it will happen again. The life inside is real, even if the labels promise something smoother. Especially then. So let us not hurry. Let us simply enter. Let us stand in the quiet front room, where the sofa sits in disciplined perfection and the lamp casts a low golden pool across a side table. Let us move down the hall where framed prints hang straight and serious, as if the walls themselves have manners. Let us pass the closed bedrooms, the linen closet, the bathroom with its pastel towels, and the kitchen at the back, where the day will begin in earnest. Before that, however, there is this small suspended moment. That in-between hush when the night has not fully gone and the day has not yet made its demands. This may be the rarest luxury of all in a house devoted to improvement. A few minutes in which no one is selling anything, no one is asking anything, and nothing needs to shine quite yet. Soon there will be cereal boxes with cheerful mascots. Soon there will be coffee and radio voices and the low-pressure urgency of breakfast. Soon there will be floors to polish, coupons to clip, collars to scrub, dishes to stack, brochures to refuse, and an entire nation of products waiting to explain what has been missing from your life. But just now the house is only breathing, and if you listen carefully, in the half-dark before morning, you can almost believe that the greatest comfort in the modern age was never something you bought at all. It was simply the feeling of being still inside a sleeping home, while the world, for one gentle moment, had not yet begun to instruct you. Then, at last, the clock decides otherwise. It is morning in 1957. The alarm does not ring so much as announce. It chatters from the bedside table with a brisk little optimism that seems to belong less to the hour than to an entire philosophy of living. Wake up. Begin again. Smile if possible. There is work to do, and modernity has provided the tools. The bedroom is cool. Pale light filters through printed curtains and rests across the bedspread in a thin, patient stripe. The blanket has slipped slightly in the night. The pillow carries the faint scent of starch and face cream. Beside the bed stands a small table with a glass of water, a clock, perhaps a magazine folded back at an ad for hand lotion or kitchen cabinetry, or a new fitted sheet set in rose and mint. The room is tidy in the deliberate way these houses like to be tidy. Not perfectly still, but arranged toward perfection. You sit up slowly. The floor waits with its early chill. The mirror catches a first sleepy glance and gives nothing away. Hair is not yet set. The face is not yet arranged for daylight. The body has not yet assumed its posture of domestic readiness. For a moment, the morning belongs to you in its rawest form, before the dress, before the coffee, before the carefully composed tone of the day. That moment passes quickly. A robe is pulled on. Slippers find the feet. Somewhere down the hall, there is the muffled shifting of another sleeper, perhaps the turning of a husband who still has 10 more minutes before the office claims him. Somewhere else, behind a partly closed door, the quiet breathing of children continues in soft defiance of schedules and school bells and breakfast. The house seems to know which people must rise first and which ones are still permitted to dream. In the bathroom, the light is bright and almost stern. It reveals the toothpaste tube rolled from the bottom, the small army of lotions in jars lined before the mirror, the towel folded just so. A brush waits, a compact waits, a bottle waits with a label that assures freshness, confidence, youth, or some profitable combination of all three. The morning routine begins with ordinary gestures, but each object nearby seems eager to attach a larger meaning to them. Not merely washing the face, but preserving radiance. Not merely combing the hair, but presenting the proper self to the day. This perhaps was one of the subtle arts of the age, making the smallest acts feel socially visible, as though the right mouthwash might reassure the neighborhood, as though a certain soap could stabilize the marriage, as though the whole country, with its lawns and stations and supermarkets and magazines, had agreed that the line between personal care and public duty was thinner than ever before. And still, beyond all that, morning remains physical. Cool sink water on the skin, the clean drag of a towel, the click of a medicine cabinet, the smooth slide of a dress from hanger to shoulders, fabric settling into place, a belt drawn snug, a final glance at the mirror that says not perfection, exactly, but readiness. The hallway feels colder than the bedroom. The runner rug softens each step. Family photographs pass at eye level in neat frames. The stairs descend toward the kitchen, and from below there comes the first real sign that the house has woken, the smell of coffee beginning to gather strength. By the time you reach the bottom step, the day has become domestic. The kitchen window lets in a pale yellow light that touches everything kindly. The table, the fruit bowl, the chrome trim, the bread box, the clean counter, the radio in the corner. There is always something a little hopeful about a 1950s kitchen in the early morning, even when the hope has been manufactured. It is the hope of order, of set places, of clean mugs, of a room in which breakfast can begin the day before the rest of life finds ways to interrupt it. On the table rests the newspaper, folded to a respectable neatness. Nearby are cereal boxes standing with their bright faces outward, as if ready for inspection. Their claims are confident: vitamins, energy, sunshine, growth, adventure. It is remarkable what can be promised from inside a cardboard rectangle. The milk bottle sweats slightly. The orange juice glows in a pitcher with enough charm to distract from any question of how much actual orange remains in the story by the time it reaches the glass. Soon the children arrive, not all at once, not in the smooth, laughing choreography of an advertisement. One wanders in slowly, carrying last night's dreams like extra weight. Another comes faster, already talking. One asks about the good bowl. Another wants the cereal with the mascot, and not the cereal with the flakes that taste, in the opinion of youth, like responsibility. Chairs scrape, spoons clink, toast goes down, toast rises, the newspaper rustles as a husband settles into it with the grave attention of a statesman, though what he most wants at this hour may be little more than weather, headlines, and 3 uninterrupted minutes with coffee. Breakfast is the first performance of the day, but it is also the truest. The room has not yet learned to pretend. Someone spills milk, someone objects to pulp, someone wants more sugar, someone wants less, One child reads the back of the box with missionary seriousness. Another has already found the toy or the maze or the cutout offer for a decoder ring. These packages know their audience well. They do not merely feed children, they recruit them. It is here, in this bright and ordinary scene, that postwar advertising performs some of its cleverest work. The table is not only a place of food, it is a small theater of modern trust. The family believes the bread because the wrapper says enriched, believes the juice because the picture looks wholesome, believes the cereal because the cartoon astronaut or cheerful tiger promises courage, bones, speed, delight. The labels do not need to lie outright. They only need to wrap appetite in reassurance. Even the parents participate in their own way. Brand way becomes shorthand. The same coffee as last month. The same butter as mother used. The same bread that collapses politely under jammed familiarity. In such a world is its own proof. If the pantry has always looked this way, if the same colors and logos have stood shoulder to shoulder for years, then surely they belong. Surely they know the household almost as well as the household knows itself. And yet the breakfast hour has its own softer truths, which no ad can fully claim. The warmth of toast in the hand, the rhythm of passing plates, the morning light growing stronger on the tablecloth. The feeling that even mild chaos can become comforting when it arrives every day at the same hour. A child kicking their legs under the chair, a spouse making a low comment from behind the paper, the radio host in the corner with that clipped, smiling voice that makes every product sound almost patriotic. In another age, breakfast had been slower, plainer, more obviously local. In this age, it arrives pre-shaped by factories and slogans. But still it comes to the same end. The family gathers, eats, quarrels gently, and begins. The cereal grows soggy, the toast crusts remain, the napkins wander. Somebody finishes first and tries to leave. Somebody lingers. Somebody asks for one more half glass of juice, and the person serving all of it notices, perhaps with quiet amusement, that the most advertised meal of the day is also the least controllable. No matter how bright the box, children still complain. No matter how wholesome the label, toast still burns when it burns. No matter how elegant the magazine photos, the table after breakfast always looks like life has happened on it. Perhaps that is what makes the scene lovable, because beneath every claim of nutritional science and household efficiency, beneath every packaged assurance of joy, the room is simply filled with people becoming themselves for the day. And there is a tenderness in that which no copywriter ever fully managed to bottle. Then, when bowls begin to empty and chairs begin to shift back, the coffee finally comes into its own. If breakfast belongs partly to the children, coffee belongs to the adults who have already understood something important about modern life, that no age of progress has ever reduced the need for a hot, steadying cup held in two hands. The tin opens with a faint, metallic sigh. Inside, the grounds wait in rich, dark silence. There is always something ceremonial about coffee in this era. Something just short of sacred. It is measured with care, especially in a home that counts pennies and habits with equal seriousness. One scoop, then another, water poured, the percolator assembled, and set upon the stove like a small engine designed for morale. Soon it begins, first the hush of heating metal, then the first small burble, then the round repetitive pulse of brewing, water climbing and falling through the grounds in patient rhythm. It is a sound so domestic, so reassuring, that it almost counts as furniture. A kitchen without it feels underfurnished in spirit. The smell fills the room gradually, not a sharp arrival, but a gathering, warm, bitter, familiar, more persuasive than any slogan printed on the can. An aroma that asks for nothing except pause. For 1 minute longer, do not rush. For 1 minute longer, stay near the stove and let the morning become bearable. In advertisements, of course, coffee claims much more than this. It promises hospitality, harmony, masculine approval, feminine mastery, neighborly envy. The right blend can allegedly brighten the breakfast table, support the husband at work, and confirm the household's excellent judgment all before 8 o'clock. The woman on the label pours with serene confidence, while every member of her family looks newly grateful to be alive. Reality is smaller and kinder. A husband may enter the kitchen, not with praise but with a tie in one hand, and sleep still in his face. He may communicate chiefly through mug placement and mild noises. One child may ask to smell the coffee, and then wrinkle their nose at it in theatrical disgust. Another may want a tiny drop in warm milk, just to feel included in adulthood. The room is not a still photograph. It shifts and mutters, and asks for things. But the coffee helps. The first pour sends steam up in pale ribbons. The cups warm the counter. A spoon taps against china. Milk clouds the surface in a slow pale bloom. Sugar disappears. The first sip is taken with something close to privacy, even if no one is alone. In that sip is not salvation, not transformation, only recognition. Yes, the day is here. Yes, I am in it. Yes, this will do. How much of 20th century domestic life rested quietly on such modest rescues is hard to measure. History is often like large forces: migration, wages, elections, wars, production, media. But there is also the history of the mug, the chair pulled back from the table, the minute near the stove, the small interior relief no census ever counted outside the window. The neighborhood has fully stirred. A car starts somewhere. A door shuts. A milk delivery may still be making its slow rounds. The radio turns from song to sponsor and back again. The newspaper folds closed. Children are urged toward shoes, toward combed hair, toward school bags, toward whatever arrangements this particular family has made with the weekday. And as those last frantic breakfast minutes pass, the coffee remains the one thing that does not pretend too much. It does not need a mascot. It does not promise that tomorrow will be easier. It does not claim to erase worry or smooth the floor or fold the laundry. It only offers warmth and a slight sharpening of the self, which, in fairness, is quite a lot. At last the cups are drained or abandoned half-finished. The plates stack up near the sink, and the room changes species. It ceases to be a breakfast room and becomes once more a workroom. The floor is waiting. Linoleum in the 1950s is a character in its own right. It shines when it wants to. It catches light with a smug sort of pride. It promises modern cleanliness while retaining a secret affection for crumbs, sticky patches, damp footprints, and all the mild treacheries of family life. In the advertisement, it is always effortless. One cheerful swipe, one approving smile, one dazzling kitchen reflecting the optimism of the age. In practice, it is a surface that asks to be minded daily, almost personally. A bucket is filled, cleaner is poured. The scent rises instantly, lemon or pine, or some laboratory interpretation of both. A mop is lifted from its place like a staff of office. And there, in the bright middle of the kitchen, begins one of the small domestic epics of the century. Water darkens the floor in temporary paths. The mop glides and shudders. The linoleum offers little squeaks of resistance beneath the shoes. Sunlight from the window makes every streak visible, which is helpful only if one enjoys scrutiny. Knees bend. Shoulders work. Corners are reached. Chair legs are nudged aside. The whole room becomes a geometry of labor. This is one of the strange truths of post-war convenience, that the new materials often promised ease while quietly demanding new standards. Once a floor could simply be clean enough, now it should gleam. Once a kitchen could be orderly, now it should look fresh enough for a camera crew to arrive at any moment. Progress did not always reduce work. Sometimes it beautified expectation. Still, there is a rhythm in mopping that lends itself to thought, or to the absence of thought. Back and forth, bucket and ring, the physical intelligence of the body takes over. A child's jam spill from yesterday becomes a fading memory. Mud by the back door is worked into surrender. The dog's mysterious tracks vanish. The room begins, slowly, to look as if it approves of itself. The scent of cleaner fills the house. It drifts into the hallway and mingles with coffee, toast, and the faint sweetness of whatever cereal remains at the breakfast table. That smell, more than most, belongs to the era. Not the smell of true lemon from a tree, but the smell of the idea of lemon. Artificial, eager, persuasive, a smell that says this room is under management. Of course, the performance is temporary. Every woman who polished a kitchen floor in the 1950s understood this in her bones, whether or not the ads admitted it. Children will return. The dog will cross. Someone will spill. Someone will enter from the yard without wiping their shoes. Domestic victory lasts minutes, perhaps an hour, and then must be renegotiated. But that does not make it meaningless. There is a real pleasure in the brief interval after the mopping is done and before the next interruption. The floor shines. The chairs are set right. The room feels larger somehow, as though cleanliness has given it a little more air. One stands back and regards the work with the modest pride of a person who knows exactly how difficult easy-looking things can be. Then, just as the bucket is set aside and the mop leaned back into its corner, the mailbox clatters. Paper enters the day. The walk to the mailbox is short, but it contains within it a tiny ritual of expectation. Perhaps there is a letter, perhaps a note from a relative, perhaps a bill, naturally. But in mid-century suburbia there is also something else waiting nearly every day. The soft, glossy rain of persuasion. Catalogs, circulars, flyers, coupons, envelopes with cheerful exclamation marks and smiling illustrations. Offers for soap, coffee, curtains, insurance, canned fruit, lawn care, vitamins, silver polish and vacations one can almost imagine, but not quite afford. The mailbox does not only deliver information, it delivers possible selves back in the kitchen. The pile is set upon the table. The paper fans outward in bright rectangles. Here is a washing machine larger than common sense, and twice as optimistic. Here is a lipstick shade named after romance. Here is a child in a sweater so clean it could only have been raised in an ad agency. Here is a pressure cooker, a chrome toaster, a miraculous hand lotion, an invitation to improve the pantry, the porch, the complexion, the marriage, were all four at once. One learns to sort quickly, bills to one side, real letters to another, contests and offers into a third stack, composed largely of fantasy and future trash. Yet there is something almost soothing in the process. The fingers move, pages turn, scissors appear, coupons are clipped with care, little rectangular hopes cut along dotted lines. A coupon is such a modest piece of paper, and yet it carries a very American kind of dream. Not abundance exactly, but advantage, a clever reduction, a tiny victory over the system, 15 cents off a cleaner, 10 cents off canned soup, a special offer on crackers that no one in the house particularly likes but everyone might learn to tolerate if the bargain is good enough. Couponing is not simply economy, it is participation, a way of saying I understand the rules of this world, and I can play them too. Some offers are stranger, save box tops, mail proofs of purchase, write in 25 words or less why your family prefers this brand of spreadable cheese. Win a blender, win a picnic hamper, win enough gelatin mixed to blur the distinction between dessert and architecture for an entire summer. The imagination of the sales copy is tireless. It would like you to believe that housekeeping is not only work, but a kind of strategic game in which every purchase might unlock dignity, delight, or at the very least a new serving bowl. Across these pages float women with perfect curls and serene expressions. Their kitchens are broad and bright. Their children are tidy without visible effort. Their husbands appear moments away from saying something uncharacteristically appreciative. This vision is not exactly false. It is simply edited. Everything inconvenient has been removed from the frame. The damp towel, the sticky handprint, the unpaid bill beneath the fruit bowl, the quiet fatigue of repeating the same tasks in slightly different light. And still, the pages are hard to resist, because beneath the commercial psychology and the bright inks, there is also something deeply human. The urge to imagine life improved, the soft excitement of a new dish set, the pleasure of arranging possibility into neat stacks on the table. Even the women who saw clearly through advertising did not always refuse it. Sometimes they entered into a sort of truce with it. Yes, you are trying to sell me a better future, but if I clip your coupon carefully enough, perhaps I may borrow the feeling for an afternoon. Eventually, the best coupons are tucked into a purse or drawer. The catalogs are stacked, the envelopes are discarded, a little drift of paper scraps remains on the table, and the kitchen, a short while ago, devoted to breakfast, and then to floor polish, now carries the dry rustle of commerce. The sun has climbed higher. The room is warming, and for the first time all morning, there is a lull. A chair, by the window, becomes unexpectedly inviting. The coffee left in the pot has cooled but not entirely surrendered. Light falls across the checked tablecloth. The floor has mostly dried. No one is speaking. No machine is running. No doorbell has rung. No announcer is insisting. Just at this moment, that happiness lies in a patented rinse aid or a whipped topping. There is only the house, briefly unwatched. This is the kind of interval history rarely records, though it may have mattered more than any number of slogans. A woman sitting down for 5 minutes with her hands folded or a cup beside her, not quite resting, not fully thinking, simply existing in the middle of her own domestic weather. The neighborhood sounds drift in faintly through the window. A mower in the distance, a passing car, a dog deciding something urgent, a child's shout from a yard farther down the block. But here inside, the quiet is decent and still. Nothing needs to improve for the next few breaths. No one is grading the brightness of the sink. No one is measuring maternal success in spoonfuls of fortified cereal. No one is comparing this kitchen to the staged rooms in a glossy catalog. The table is just a table. The chair is just a chair. The body has weight. The house holds it. Then, from the corner, the television wakes. Its screen takes a moment to gather itself. First, a dim flicker. Then a brighter, ghostly field. Then the full gray bloom of daytime broadcasting. The set is a piece of furniture as much as a machine, raised on its legs with the quiet pride of an object that knows it has become central to the room. And in many homes by the late 1950s, it has. The television does not simply entertain, it companions, it fills the air, it gives the house a second voice. A host appears with practiced friendliness. A singer smiles through a commercial. A sitcom wife laughs in a kitchen where no dish towel ever seemed honestly damp. A soap opera begins in which everybody speaks with grave intensity about inheritance, romance, betrayal, memory, and paper-thin domestic catastrophe. The details vary, but the function is steady. Light, movement, company. Yet around and within the programs come the commercials, and they are perhaps the true authors of the mood. They are bright with certainty. They do not ask whether life is difficult. They only explain which brand can correct it. A detergent promises shirts so white that social confidence will follow automatically. A bread ad insists that softness equals care. A soup ad frames dinner as a matter of opening the correct can. A floor cleaner assures viewers that the modern woman no longer needs to scrub like her grandmother, though if one looks closely, the woman in the ad is still wiping something with suspicious dedication. The genius of television advertising lies partly in rhythm. It enters when the mind is already softened by narrative, by faces, by the passing of time. One moment a fictional aunt may be disowning a cousin over a matter of silverware and betrayal. The next, A smiling actress is holding up a gleaming dish towel, as if to say the true inheritance worth fighting over is the right washing powder. How strange, and how ordinary, that the emotional life of the afternoon should be braided together in this way. A little longing from the drama, a little authority from the spokesman in the lab coat, a little reassurance from the mother in pearls, a little music from the jingle that will remain in the mind long after the plot has faded. Meanwhile, in the real room, work continues. Laundry is folded on the lap or beside the chair. Socks are matched. Towels are stacked. Shirts are smoothed by a hand over the knee. The television speaks one language while the hands speak another. There is a low practical poetry in this arrangement. The set flickers, the fabric yields. One world sells perfect domestic ease. The other world performs domestic maintenance in real time. Perhaps that was one of television's most curious gifts to postwar homemakers. It transformed loneliness into a kind of accompanied labor. Not rest exactly, but less silent work, a companion that never needed feeding, a presence that asked no direct questions, a stream of songs, smiles, promotions, recipes, and serialized heartache to keep the afternoon from becoming too wide. Still, the screen could not quite conceal the truth that every promise required repetition. The commercials implied breakthrough, but the house knew better. No detergent ended washing forever. No cleanser achieved final victory over grease. No televised hostess reached through the glass to stack the towels for you. The room might glow with imagined ease, but the basket in the next room remained stubbornly full. And so eventually, the folding ends. The volume lowers, and attention drifts toward the laundry itself. It is waiting with the patient accusation of a task that has not forgotten you. Sorting begins in familiar categories. Whites, colors, things delicate enough to require more gentleness than the rest of the household is likely to offer them. Children's clothes carry evidence of dirt, as if determined to prove that all lawns and classrooms and backyards were invented chiefly to keep laundry relevant. A husband's collars present their own separate diplomacy, with sweat and day. Aprons carry flour, grease, sauce, and small anonymous marks that only the person who wore them can even begin to interpret. The machine stands ready in the laundry area, or utility room, square and competent, one more triumph of modern engineering that has entered the home with the promise of rescue. And to be fair, it does change things. Compared with the tub and board and ringing arms of earlier generations, this machine is a wonder. Yet all wonders come with instructions, measurements, and the occasional anxiety that one has misunderstood them. The box of detergent opens, a scented cloud rises, powder is measured with caution, too little, and the stains survive with insulting confidence. Too much and the machine threatens to foam like a laboratory mishap. Dare you go on? The clothing goes in, the lid lowers, a dial is turned. Then the machine starts. There is always something oddly comforting about a washing machine in motion. The first surge of water, the steady churn, the shift from silence to purposeful agitation. It sounds less like a miracle and more like weather contained. A private storm in a square white cabinet. Water moves, fabric turns, soap insists, the day continues around it. This is where the mythology of the modern household meets the reality of repetition. Advertisements would like to present stain removal as a clean, dramatic victory. A before, a product, an after. But most homemakers knew that laundry was less like a duel and more like a season. It returned, it layered, it never quite ended. Shirts emerged, clean and were worn again. Towels softened, then dulled, then frayed. Socks disappeared into strange dimensions. Whiteness was not a finish line, but a temporary condition. And still, there was satisfaction in the process. A stained child's shirt, scrubbed at the sink before joining the load. A line of shirts lifted from the basket after washing, smelling of soap and a manufactured kind of mountain air. Sheets shaken out and hung to dry, billowing in the yard like domestic flags. How many afternoons in the 1950s were punctuated by that sight? Rows of cloth, moving softly in the breeze, announcing not luxury exactly, but management. Care, continuity. Neighbors would have seen one another's laundry as casually as one now sees parked cars or porch chairs. Diapers, school blouses, men's work shirts, tea towels, summer dresses. The private life of the household, aired publicly, if only in cotton and hems. And with it came all the small codes of the era. Were the whites bright? Were the garments mended? Did the line look full, which suggested labor, or neat, which suggested control? The detergent boxes understood these codes very well. Their mascots grinned with almost military confidence. Their slogans invoked science, modern chemistry, superior suds, active power, invisible enzymes, secret blue crystals, and the absolute certainty that this product alone knew how to preserve the social life of a shirt. It is one of advertising's most enduring tricks, to turn maintenance into moral reassurance. When the washer settles into its steady cycle, there is a chance to step back and listen. The room is filled with mechanical patience. Somewhere beyond it, the television continues with a game show or a sponsor's chorus. Somewhere else, the kitchen stands ready to become lunch. Sunlight has shifted. The day is now deep enough to feel committed. Morning's possibilities have thinned into afternoon's routines. And perhaps that is why the sound of washing can be so oddly peaceful. It does not ask for cleverness or wit. It does not demand beauty. It only asks time, water, and motion and waiting. In a culture so eager to promise instant improvement, the machine quietly tells another truth. That many forms of care are cyclical, not dramatic. Eventually the cycle ends. Wet clothes are lifted free. The basket refills in a different state. Some things go to the line. Some to a dryer if the household has one and trusts it. Some are laid flat in anxious respect. The room smells sharply of soap. The hands smell of damp cotton. The work is not done, only advanced. By now the scent of cleaner has joined the scent of laundry, and the whole house begins to smell like effort translated into fragrance. Under the sink, the bottles wait. There they stand in ranks like a private domestic arsenal. Glass cleaner, general cleaner, tile spray, scouring powder, polish, metal brightener, something for wax, something for grease, something for stains that are somehow both ordinary and too embarrassing to name. The labels are lively with color and confidence. Each seems delighted to exist. Each wears its cheer like a uniform. The modern home of the 1950s did not merely contain cleaning products. It accumulated them. New formulas arrived. New scents. New methods. New televised demonstrations involving gleaming sinks and laboratory language. The homemaker was encouraged to become not just a cleaner of rooms, but a curator of solutions. To know which bottle belonged to which problem, to select wisely, to keep backups, to stay current. And because the house is already in motion, because the energy of labor rarely knows how to stop exactly where it should, the cleaning continues. Counters are sprayed. The sink is wiped in circles until it catches light more gracefully. The stovetop receives special attention around the burners and edges where breakfasts and dinners have left their fossil record. The chrome trim is polished. The table is cleaned of its paper drift. Window panes are rubbed until the outside world appears a little flatter and a little brighter through them. Even the baseboards may receive a glance, then a cloth, then more attention than any baseboard can possibly deserve. This too is part of the mythology, that true care reveals itself in hidden places, that the proper home can withstand scrutiny from any angle, that cleanliness, if pursued earnestly enough, becomes not just hygiene but character. Yet the longer one cleans, the clearer another truth becomes. No bottle is the miracle. The miracle, if there is one, lies in persistence, in knowing where dirt collects, in remembering where fingers touch, where steam settles, where crumbs migrate, where dust prefers to rest. Homes are intimate because maintenance requires memory. Family members, naturally, do little to support this revelation. Someone enters with less attention to their shoes than the floor deserves. Someone sets down a glass without a coaster, in precisely the place where a ring will be most visible. A child washes hands, but not all the way. A spouse looks at the sparkling room and says, with genuine good intention but poor timing, "Does it smell different in here?" The answer is yes. It smells of lemon, labor, and the middle years of the 20th century. It smells of effort disguised as ease. By the time the cloth is rinsed and the last bottle returned to its place, the house carries that distinct afternoon glow, which does not mean perfect cleanliness so much as recently negotiated order. The counters are clear, the sink is bright, the windows have forgiven the weather for a while, the hands are drier than they were this morning, the knees know the hour without consulting a clock. Then the doorbell rings. There is a special kind of pause that follows a midday knock. It is not fear, not exactly annoyance, more a rapid, practical inventory of possibilities. A neighbor. The post. A child home early? Or, as happens so often in these decades of doorstep enterprise, a salesman. When the door opens, there he stands in his polished shoes and tightened smile, carrying the confidence of a man whose livelihood depends on treating every threshold as a potential turning point. His case is neat, his hair is neat, his script, though invisible, is perhaps the neatest thing about him. He has not come merely to sell. He has come to enter the logic of the household and rearrange it in his favor. Perhaps it is a vacuum attachment, perhaps storage containers, perhaps a kitchen implement with more metal parts than any potato has ever truly deserved. Perhaps encyclopedia volumes for the children's future. Whatever the object, the method is the same. Ask a question, create a lack. Offer a remedy, link the remedy to care, intelligence, progress, status, or all four at once. Are you fully satisfied with your current arrangement? This is one of the great sales questions of the modern domestic age, because it can never safely be answered, yes. To answer yes is to declare oneself closed to improvement, which no culture of progress likes to hear. To answer no is to invite the demonstration. And so it begins. The suitcase opens, the sample gleams, the explanation gathers speed. Look at this finish, hear this seal, consider this efficiency, imagine this convenience. Think of your family, think of your guests, think of holiday meals, neighborhood admiration, your own precious time, your deserving hands, your very sensible instincts. The object is never simply itself. It is always attached to a better version of the household. The homemaker at the door knows this. She knows also the social etiquette of refusal. One must not be rude. One must not be foolish. One must not appear easy prey. Yet the salesman has been trained in the currents of politeness as thoroughly as a fish knows water. Every hesitation is met with reassurance. Every polite decline with one final feature. Every uncertainty with a testimonial from some other wise woman on another street who nearly missed her chance. Children may appear nearby, drawn by novelty. The dog may make his opinion quietly known from the hallway. The house itself seems to hold its breath. Even the bright little kitchen behind you has become part of the pitch, proof that you are the very kind of person for whom this product was destined. At last, through skill or attrition, or the simple clockwork of lunchtime approaching, the exchange ends. Perhaps with a brochure, perhaps with a promise to think it over, perhaps with a small purchase half made to secure escape. The man retreats down the path. The door closes. The hallway regains its own sound. How many homes in the 1950s experienced this exact exhale? The relief after persuasion leaves. The return of one's own air. Yet even then, the script lingers, the possibility lingers. Perhaps the gadget would help. Perhaps the containers would stack better. Perhaps one really does need the new blade, new seal, new hose, new lid, new handle, new approach to preserving carrots. But lunchtime is here, and hunger is often the most persuasive interruption of all. In the quiet after the door closes, the kitchen receives you back without judgment. Lunch in such a house is rarely ceremonial. Breakfast had structure. Dinner will have duty. Lunch is often a practical bridge between tasks, made of leftovers and labels. Casserole from the night before emerges from the icebox with the sturdy dignity of a dish created to endure. There may be canned soup, there may be soft bread, there may be pickles, slices of tomato, a little cold meat, a spoonful of yesterday's beans. Noon does not ask for freshness so much as readiness. The casserole is a mid-century object of quiet genius. Part thrift, part convenience, part culinary optimism, it turns fragments into solidity. Ham, noodles, peas, potatoes, cream sauce, crumbs, cheese, all layered under. The broad national belief that almost anything can be improved by baking it together under one roof. It is warm, it is filling, it asks not to be admired too closely. On the counter stands a soup can with its own claims. Wholesome, fortified, farm fresh somehow. Even in metal, the topography is confident. The colors are familiar. How much trust in the 20th century was stored inside the can is difficult to overstate. To open one was to participate in a bargain with industry. I will surrender seasonality, locality, and perhaps some texture in exchange for reliability, speed, and a small feeling of preparedness. Bread is sliced, butter spreads. The radio offers a recipe that sounds suspiciously like an advertisement in disguise. The house is quieter now than it was at breakfast. No school chatter, no urgent newspaper crackle, perhaps only a chair, a plate, a spoon, and the low murmur of broadcasting. Outside, the afternoon lies bright and broad beyond the window, but for the moment the world contracts to the table. There is comfort in this meal, even if it does not sparkle. The casserole tastes of continuity more than excitement. The soup tastes of salt, tomato, and habit. The bread dissolves gently, as if trying not to burden the jaw. The milk in the glass is all earnest nutrition and no poetry. Yet these things, taken together, have a domestic mercy of their own. They ask less of you than dinner will. They do not require performance. They need only to be warmed, spread, opened, or remembered. And this, too, reveals something about the era. Much of its advertising addressed women, not when they were idle, but when they were tired. Not at the height of imaginative energy, but in the practical trough between one duty and the next. Products offered not pleasure alone, but the reduction of decision. Use this soup, serve this bread, trust this shortening, keep this pudding mix on hand. A kitchen could become manageable if stocked with enough branded certainty. Over time, such certainty becomes loyalty, and loyalty begins to look very much like memory. The same jar on the shelf for 10 years, the same can in the pantry, the same spread on the knife. One generation teaching another, not always with words, but with groceries. Whether the taste is objectively best matters less than the fact of return. We bought this, we buy this, therefore, in some deep household sense, it belongs to us. By the end of lunch, the plate is lighter, the radio more distant, the body slightly slower. Dishes go to the sink, a crumb remains on the table. The casserole is returned to chill and wait for its next assignment. The room is fed you without asking to be admired, and from somewhere nearby comes the subtle mechanical presence of the age once more. A mixer on the counter, a toaster, a fan, a refrigerator, perhaps a washer still finishing its thoughts. The house is full of electricity now, even when nothing dramatic is happening. The afternoon turns soft around these machines. This was the great hum of domestic modernity, not only the visible appliances in their chrome and white enamel, but the new texture of home life they created. Buttons, dials, cords, plugs, toggles, timers, switches. A kitchen or utility room could begin to feel almost orchestral. One tool warming, another cooling, another blending, another waiting to be cleaned after allegedly saving time. There is pleasure in these devices that should not be denied. The hand mixer really is easier than the old bowl and arm. The electric iron heats with impressive seriousness. The refrigerator transforms the calendar of food. A vacuum makes visible debris vanish with thrilling speed. Storage containers can, in their honest moments, be exactly as helpful as claimed. But every convenience also introduces a new ritual. One must plug, rinse, stack, rewind, dry, descale, store, compare, replace. A new freedom arrives holding a small list of conditions. No wonder entire afternoons could be spent speaking about such things. Over fences, across coffee tables, at church suppers and school functions and neighborhood gatherings. Mrs. So-and-so has a new deep fryer. Someone else has a miraculous peeler. A friend of a friend has hosted a party centered entirely on plastic storage bowls that seal with a satisfying little sigh and come in colors suggestive of spring optimism. The products circulate not only through shops, but through conversation. They become social facts. In some living rooms, this conversation turns into ritualized selling. A hostess arranges snacks. Women gather with purses in their laps and practical curiosity in their eyes. A representative demonstrates how leftovers may be preserved, cakes protected, lettuce crisped, celery defended against softness itself. There is laughter. There is calculation. There is the strange intensity produced when ordinary life is reframed as a sequence of solvable container-related problems. It would be easy to laugh too sharply at this, but one should resist. Under the salesmanship lies something familiar. People wanting solutions. People wanting beauty in useful things. People wanting to believe that organization might lower the temperature of life. A good lid, after all, is not nothing. By late afternoon, the house begins to show the cumulative texture of a day fully lived in. Dishes from lunch have been washed or stacked to dry. Laundry has been hung or folded. Mail has been sorted. The floor has lost some of its morning brilliance, but retained enough to stay respectable. The television has gone quiet or low. The rooms feel worked through. Outside, shadows lengthen. Sun on the countertops softens from bright white into honey. Voices from neighboring yards rise and fall. Somewhere a lawn chair scrapes. Somewhere a garage door opens. The day has moved beyond its ambitious middle and entered a gentler register. This is the hour when the house asks less, not nothing. There are always tasks left, but less. The rhythm loosens. Even the products on the shelves seem to settle into stillness, their labels dimming in the changing light. For a little while, the quietest truth of the day becomes visible. Most comfort in a home does not come from novelty. It comes from repetition surviving long enough to feel like shelter. A lamp is turned on. The kitchen no longer needs to prove itself. The living room gathers shadows kindly around the furniture. The hallway becomes softer at the edges. Whatever dinner has been, whatever conversations remain, the larger shape of the day has already been decided. It was a day of tending. It was a day of maintenance. It was a day in which labor wore the perfume of modern progress, and yet remained recognizably human all the same. By dusk, the rooms have stopped performing for strangers, and at the bathroom mirror, one last ritual waits. The light above the sink is warm, but unforgiving. It shines on jars and tubes and little glass bottles lined in a neat domestic parade. Cold cream, face powder, toner, hand lotion, night cream, something called renewal, something called radiance, something called moisture, something promising visible results in 7 days if only one applies faithfully and believes with proper sincerity. Beauty culture in the 1950s had its own intimate vocabulary of science and reassurance. Dermatological, clinically tested, special formula, active ingredient, youthful bloom, freshness, refinement. One could almost imagine the skin as a household surface requiring its own specialized maintenance schedule. Cleanse, tone, Smooth, protect, restore, and after a long day, there is a peculiar comfort in this language, even when one does not entirely trust it. Cream is dabbed onto the face and massaged in with slow, circling fingers. Cold cream in particular has that old-fashioned, almost theatrical luxury to it, thick and cool and faintly perfumed, turning the face into a place where the day may be gently erased. Powder is set aside. The harsher edges of the afternoon begin to fall away. A towel is lifted. Water runs. The mirror clouds slightly and clears. This is another form of return to self, though the era tried hard to market it as improvement. The ads asked women to look younger, fresher, more appealing, more composed, less tired, less real. But beneath that pressure lies a simpler human act, washing away the day before sleep. Touching one's own face with care, making a small private peace with time and fatigue and reflection. How many women stood at such mirrors after the children were quiet, and the dishes were done, looking not for glamour, but for gentleness. A little softness around the eyes, a little mercy in the light, proof that they had made it from morning to night in one piece. Behind them the house is nearly still. Perhaps a husband turns a page in the next room. Perhaps a radio plays softly, low enough to blur speech into warmth. Perhaps the refrigerator hums its steady note from the kitchen. The whole home now seems composed less of tasks than of sounds at rest. Cream is wiped away. Another layer is applied. Hands are lotioned. Hair is pinned or brushed. Slippers whisper over the bathroom floor. There is no audience for this now. No salesman, no sponsor, no child asking for more juice, no camera. Only the woman, the mirror, the jars, the patient electric light, and the knowledge that tomorrow the whole choreography will begin again. And yet that knowledge does not need to feel heavy here, because bedtime has a way of reducing history to atmosphere. The century with all its industries, strategies, media, labor patterns, household technologies, and targeted desire settles, at last into the smallest of scenes. A bed turned down, a lamp clicked off, a blanket drawn upward, a body leaning gratefully into the cool side of the pillow. The room is dark, except for the modest spill of light from outside or under the door. Sheets feel crisp against tired legs. The mattress receives weight. The day leaves the spine. By degrees, somewhere in the distance, a television laughs in another house. Somewhere a car moves down the street and is gone. Somewhere a late broadcast carries a slogan across the neighborhood in a voice too soft now to command belief. Dead. This is sleep in the age of advertising. Even here, the mind is not entirely free of the day's bright instructions. Snatches of jingle drift up and away. A label flashes once behind the eyes. The memory of a catalog page, a cereal mascot, a detergent claim, a salesman's smile, a cooling mug, a shining floor, a sealed container, a polished sink. All of it moves through the mind more slowly now, losing edge, losing urgency. Perhaps that is the final domestic mercy of sleep, that it blurs the pitch, it dissolves the insistence. It takes what the day called essential and lets it drift down into nonsense, then softness, then nothing at all. Tomorrow morning the house will wake again. The curtains will pale with dawn. The coffee will gather itself. The radio will speak in its cheerful authority. Bread will be sliced. Floors will remember footprints. Mail will arrive. The shops will open. The screens will flicker. New products will offer their help. Old ones will continue their patient reign from shelf and cupboard and under sink cabinet. The same age of improvement will once more explain what remains lacking. But none of that is required now. Now the house is quiet enough to hold you without instruction. Now the night asks nothing more than stillness. Now the great bright machinery of modern life has receded into a background hum, as soft as a fan in the next room, as harmless as a faraway radio fading under sleep. And if somewhere, just beyond the edge of dreaming, a cheerful voice still insists that tomorrow can be cleaner, easier, brighter, newer, lovelier, better arranged and better sealed and better stocked and better managed than today, you need not answer. That the shelves wait, Let the coupons wait, let the collars wait, let the counters, and the catalogs, and the charming labels, and the little silvered promises all wait until morning. For tonight, in this room, in this bed, in this ordinary and unrepeatable hush, nothing needs to be improved. Only softened, only dimmed, only carried gently into rest. So drift now through the blue dark of the sleeping house, past the quiet kitchen, past the polished floor, past the silent radio, past the stacked bowls and folded towels and cooled stove, and let the whole century become only atmosphere around you. A low hum, a soft light, a house at rest, and somewhere, far away already, the faintest promise of another morning.